Marshall is sitting up again tonight with her 80-year-old sick father who lives with her and her husband. Grandpa isn't ill enough to be hospitalized, but he needs 24-hour care. The days aren't difficult, but at night he needs some medication and regular checks. The most important check is to make sure the steamer by Grandpa's bed is working properly, keeping the air moist and easy to breathe. Laura insists she can stay awake, but Harold is worried about this second night.
Laura, what are you doing? Now, you're not going to stay up again tonight, are you? Laura, come on to bed. Please, Laura.
I refuse to talk about it. I'm sitting up.
Oh, if you just listen to reason, Laura.
Reason? Who said anything about reason? I'm thinking about a sick old man up there, my father.
Well, I'm thinking about you, my wife. You can't go without sleep night after night.
It's only the second night, and he'll probably be okay tomorrow. And if he isn't, I'm not turning him over to strangers. He's not going to a home.
Who said anything about a nursing home?
You're leading up to it.
I told you yesterday, Laura, that we would try this for a couple of nights. All I'm asking now...
You're not fooling me.
Laura, I'm just saying that if you'd come to bed, we could set the alarm for every hour and take turns getting up. Like we did when the kids were babies.
I wouldn't sleep a wink.
Why not?
Because the steamer might stop, and we might not hear him if he was gasping or choking.
The steamer didn't stop last night, did it?
No proof that it won't tonight. You know, I know that you're leading up to putting him in a home.
Oh, you're not making sense, Laura. Now, you're dead for lack of sleep.
I'm fine. I was a little groggy after lunch today, but I'm fine today. I'm just fine now.
Fine? Snapping at me the way you are?
I'm not snapping. Why don't you just leave me alone?
All right. All right.
Laura and Harold are having a serious quarrel. But it's made even more serious by their lack of sleep. Sleep is a basic human need. So basic that we spend about 1/3 of our lifetime satisfying it. But like another basic need, food, sleep is something we usually don't think about until, like Laura and Harold, we're deprived of it. It's only then that we discover, as they have, how big a difference a little sleep loss makes in our lives. The irony is that much as we need sleep, no one can explain why we need it. Even world-renowned sleep experts, like Stanford University's Dr. William Dement, admit that they're baffled.
Sleep, the biological riddle of the century. It just doesn't make sense. There's such an elaborate neural machinery for sleep, REM sleep, dreaming, all of these changes, and yet we can't find a reason that it exists.
What is sleep? For centuries, priests and poets called sleep the time when the soul left the body to wander the earth or speak with God. William Shakespeare praised sleep. He called it nature's soft nurse that soothed the troubled mind. But sleep has terrified others. 3,000 years ago, an unknown poet fearfully asked, "The sleeping and the dead, are they not alike?" Today, science has taken on the mystery of sleep. But unlike priests and poets, scientists rely less on inspiration and more on observation. They investigate what can be objectively measured, and they've made some interesting discoveries. For example, they know that however we may experience it, sleep is not a single psychological state. It's a complex cycle of several stages, a cycle we repeat several times each night. Using this device, an electroencephalograph, or EEG, scientists can record the electrical activity of the brain. The EEG is their principal tool for identifying the stages of the sleep cycle. What happens when we fall asleep? No one really knows. The EEG tells us that when we close our eyes, our brains gradually switch from a normal activity rhythm to the slower-paced alpha rhythm. Our muscles relax. Our general activity slows down. And finally, we cross the threshold. We fall asleep. During the first 15 minutes of sleep, our general slowdown continues. Scientists call this period stage 1 sleep. Then, after 15 minutes, the EEG begins to record a slower rhythm. We become even more relaxed. This is stage 2 sleep. Stage 2 lasts about another 15 minutes. Then the EEG picks up the first signs of an even slower rhythm, the delta wave. Delta waves signal the onset of stage 3 sleep. Finally, in another 15 minutes, delta waves predominate. Our muscles are deeply relaxed. Our pulse and breathing are extremely slow. We are in stage 4 sleep, the deepest sleep of all, about 1 hour after we first fell asleep. But the sleep cycle isn't complete, and its final stage is a most remarkable time. This man is experiencing REMs, rapid eye movements. REMs are only one of the rather curious things we do after stage 4 sleep. The EEG suddenly shows alpha waves and other evidence of brain activity at the border of sleep and waking. So the new stage is called REM sleep and also paradoxical sleep. Because paradoxically, its brainwave pattern looks more like waking than sleeping. Before REM sleep, our bodies toss and turn. But when REM begins, we suddenly stop moving. In fact, our brain seems to deliberately paralyze our muscles. Obviously, there's something going on here. What is it? Our REM sleep is another world of fantastic experiences. A world where time and space, even right or wrong, mean nothing. Where anything can happen. It's the world of dreams. Every night, each of us travels to this incredible world, but no one knows why.
We'll put that there, and it'll pick up your rapid eye movements during your dreams. Just stick it down.
Exploring the mystery of dreams is one of psychology's fascinating frontiers. Volunteers in sleep research labs spend the night hooked up to an EEG. Some rather sleepy psychologists stay up waiting until REM sleep occurs, then awaken their subjects and explore their dreams.
Joanna, wake up.
Wake up.
Have you been dreaming?
Dream researchers have learned quite a bit. They know, for instance, that everybody dreams for a total of about 2 hours every night, whether or not they remember. And the dream portions of our sleep grow longer as the night goes on. Experiments on animals have also shown that REM sleep paralysis is a very sensible thing. This cat's eyes are open, but actually it's asleep. The part of its brain that paralyzes its muscles during REM sleep has been surgically removed. And so the cat can do what each of us might do after a similar operation. It acts out its dreams. Imagine what harm we would do to ourselves and others if we acted out dreams. As it is, we can only describe them afterward.
And then these two strange beings arrived, looking like pirates, and smashed two bicycles together.
Dream researchers have evidence that we would act out our dreams if we could. Our eyes may have vertical REMs when we dream of climbing a ladder, and horizontal ones when we dream of a ping pong game. And the naturally paralyzed muscles of dreamers sometimes try to move. One subject moved his right hand, then his left hand, and then his foot. It turned out that he was dreaming of a full bucket. He picked the bucket up in his right hand, put his left hand underneath it, and carried it away. In this laboratory film, this man's ulcer showed how physically stressful the mere act of dreaming can be. As his REM sleep began, gastric juices flowed from his suddenly inflamed ulcer. He was dreaming of a vacation in Hawaii. Our REM sleep is indeed paradoxical. Most of us think of sleep as a time of rest. REM sleep certainly isn't that. Some doctors think that death during sleep, say from a heart attack, may be caused by the stress of dreaming.
The dream world is as real as the real world. So the brain is not only perceiving the dream world, it's creating it. Why does that happen? How does it happen?
Some psychoanalysts believe that dreams are repressed parts of our personalities, parts too painful for our waking mind, but relived in our dreams. Others say that dreams are a safety valve for our sanity, that we work out our emotional problems, as one psychologist says, by going quietly and safely insane every night of our lives. New evidence suggests that a dream may be the storage of a memory. It's possible that brain cells convert each day's events into long-term memories during REM sleep, and that we experience these conversions as dreams. Maybe all these theories are true. Maybe none are. It's impossible to scientifically test a dream. But what about that other kind of dream? The kind that isn't like anything you've ever experienced or want to experience. The kind that turns a restful night's slumber into a bout with terror. What about nightmares? Well, psychologists think that nightmares usually happen when we experience a deep need for REM sleep and the dreaming state. Most nightmares occur in people who haven't had enough REM sleep. But there's another kind of nightmare, very rare, that happens during stage 4 sleep, our deepest sleep. That's when our heartbeat and breathing are at their slowest, and our bodies come closest to the point of physical death. Psychologists believe that if your physical need for stage 4 sleep is great enough, you may sink into it so deeply that your body feels close to death, and a terrifying image of your own impending doom breaks into your dream. You might be wondering how it is that we develop a need for REM sleep. Well, some illnesses, especially high fevers, can cut down REM sleep periods. And ironically, so can sleeping pills. But there's a simple way to guarantee deprivation. Just don't sleep. Any of us who faced a deadline at school or on the job knows what a loss of sleep is like. And so by now, do Harold and Laura. When we last saw them, Laura was prepared to stay up all night, while Harold hit the sack. But oddly enough, the next morning, Laura felt a little better rested than Harold. Why? Well, Laura thought she didn't sleep a wink. But actually, she did. She nodded off for a few seconds many, many times during the night. Sleep experts call these tiny naps micro-sleeps. Micro-sleeps can be enough to keep a sleep-starved person going. Harold woke up frequently during the night, so often that he deprived himself of REM sleep time. So he did not get much real rest. And the end of our story? Grandpa got well. The effects of sleep and dream deprivation have been thoroughly studied at major sleep research laboratories, like William Dement's Center at Stanford. A San Francisco television reporter decided to see how not sleeping would affect her physically and mentally. So she lived in the sleep lab and stayed awake. 3 days, 2 hours, and 12 minutes later, she was still awake. And she also came very close to temporarily losing her mind. Here she is after only 48 hours awake. Her mental and physical abilities have already decreased dramatically. Even simple arithmetic is sheer torment. She's got to repeat every number out loud just to remember it.
No, 22, 29, 37, 4, 6, 8, 12, 10, 19, 19, 25, 31, 12, 13, 6, 7, 11, 12, 18, 18, 25, 2, 9, 14, okay. 82.
But sleep researchers aren't really impressed by a mere 2 days sleep loss. That's only a minor case of deprivation, comparable to what Harold and Laura went through. Severe sleep deprivation sets in after 72 hours awake. When our friend the reporter passed the 3-day point, things started to get really strange.
So I looked at it closer and I realized that it had a trunk and long ears, so we decided that was an elephant. And we looked in the bookstore window and I saw all these girls playing bongo drums and dancing in the bookstore on the balcony. And we saw, well, actually, I saw most of these. I saw 2 green cats that were climbing out trying to get candy, but actually they turned out to be trees and flowers. We had quite a bit of time, so we saw quite a few animals.
Hallucinations and paranoid fears are common symptoms of extreme sleep deprivation. The paranoia is probably the outer limit of simple crankiness and irritation. But the hallucinations may be dreams. It's probable that, asleep or not, everyone must eventually dream. At last, after 74 hours, a very sleepy reporter closed her eyes, dreaming perhaps of the new record she'd just set. But pure research is only one of the things that sleep labs do. They're also havens of rest for people who have sleep disorders, some of which can be very disturbing indeed. This man has narcolepsy. Narcolepsy is a rare disease whose victims fall asleep anytime without warning. Only daily doses of drugs can keep narcoleptics fully awake. Their lives can become another kind of nightmare.
It's an artificial thing. It never gets me up to where I'm really fully productive.
I've had a lot of embarrassing things happen. I know someone said something funny when we were just 3 couples of us were going into this lovely restaurant, and I started to go down to the ground, and one man got on one arm and one got on, and my husband on the other, and they literally dragged me in with my feet out behind me into that restaurant, which was very embarrassing because I'm sure they all thought a drunk was arriving.
Sleep researchers aren't really sure why people have narcolepsy. The sleep attacks are brought on by an exciting or emotional moment, which makes much of normal life rather difficult for the sufferer.
to show love to someone, you have to do something to show that love. And when you have narcolepsy, many times you're just too tired to show the many little things that are important to showing someone you love them. And I really think that's what contributed to the divorce.
You have 4 children. How do you feel about the possibility that they could have narcolepsy?
Oh, I really hope they don't. I don't want anybody to ever have it. But they do know what it is like, although they don't think it's the greatest thing in the world, and I know that they would not like to have it. It's just something they have no control over now.
Do you worry about it?
Yes, I think any mother would.
Stanford scientists have proven that narcolepsy is inherited. They mated narcoleptic dogs and got narcoleptic puppies. That fact can't cure narcolepsy, but it can help diminish the occurrence of this serious sleep disorder. But some other sleep problems are much harder to detect. Back in 1960, one of William Dement's early experiments proved that even a full night's sleep isn't a good night's sleep without dreams. These are scenes from his experiments.
And this means the onset of rapid eye sleep right here. Already 15 seconds will elapsed. We must interrupt the period right away.
Dement monitored a volunteer's EEG until REM sleep appeared. At that moment, he awakened him, preventing his dream. Some volunteers slept several nights without one opportunity to dream.
Can you remember everything? No. Do you think you were dreaming when I woke you up? No. You feel sure you weren't? Don't think so. Okay. Go back to sleep.
Dement's volunteers became irritated, nervous, even panicky after days of dreamless sleep. They lost their ability to concentrate. And when at last Dement allowed them uninterrupted sleep, their EEGs showed enormous amounts of REM sleep time. They were going through REM rebound, a dreamer's feast after days of starvation. But most of us aren't narcoleptic or deprived of dreams. What can science tell us about an everyday sleep problem, like insomnia? And what about those 1,001 time-honored formulas for getting those 8 solid hours that everybody needs? Or do they?
Each person has his own requirement, and that requirement is related to how you feel during the day. I mean, we should sleep the amount that keeps us reasonably alert in the daytime. For some people, that's as little as 1 or 2 hours. They're very rare, but they exist. For others, it's 10 hours. As far as we can tell, nothing causes dreaming. That children under stress will sleepwalk, that doesn't seem to be true. That stress will lead to nightmares doesn't seem to be true. I think that there's also a very widespread myth that anxiety causes insomnia. Now, we have no evidence for that. Because sleeping pills may help you sleep in the sense that they drug and depress the brain. But the help will only last a few nights. And it isn't clear that it's really better. It's just simply you can drink or drug yourself into unconsciousness. What is absolutely clear is that most of them at least, are highly addicting, in that if you begin to use sleeping pills, you soon, and I mean within a week, become dependent on them. So if you take them away suddenly, your sleep will be much worse. I doubt very much that any illness is helped by sleep, and I would in fact think it would be a very good bet that practically every illness is made worse by sleep. Certainly heart disease is made worse by sleep. All respiratory problems are made worse by sleep, etc., etc. Sleep is a curse rather than a blessing.
So, modern sleep research has turned many of our most cherished beliefs about sleep into old wives' tales. Psychology has also tackled some of the deeper implications of sleep research and found itself pondering a very ancient question. I, Zhuang Zhu, dreamed I was a butterfly, flying happily here and there. Suddenly, I awoke and knew I was Zhuang Zhu. But Did Xuang Zhu dream he was a butterfly, or did the butterfly dream he was Xuang Zhu? That Chinese philosopher lived 300 years before the birth of Christ. He was bothered by something most of us take for granted. We commonly associate reality with consciousness. Consciousness is our psychological condition when we're awake. It's the state of awareness created by the input of information from our eyes, ears, and other senses into the brain's cerebral cortex. The cortex continuously analyzes all that input. We rely on its analysis for our sense of reality, our consciousness. We also make a definite distinction between our conscious experiences and our unconscious experiences, experiences we have when we're not awake. That means that a dream is an unconscious experience, and so most of us think of it as something that didn't really happen. But Xuang Zhu wasn't so sure. He wondered if our dream lives and our so-called real lives weren't actually two parts of one reality. Many modern psychologists wonder the same thing, because research into the sleep cycle indicates that sleeping, dreaming, and waking consciousness may be not so distant cousins. Instead of being separate states, they are probably varieties of a single psychological and physical process, one that creates both our waking reality and the altered reality of our dreams. Why do we sleep? What does sleep do for us, if anything? And why do we dream? These fundamental questions remain tantalizing mysteries. William Dement pleads with future scientists to spend as much time studying people sleeping as past scientists have spent on people awake. No doubt, they'll lose a lot of sleep doing just that.